Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome, of course, to the Wargaming.net League 2016 Grand Finals seeding show. Of course, the drawing show. We're going to be seeing exactly what teams are going to be joining us in our Grand Finals in Warsaw. It's been a big build-up to this one. We're all excited for it here, of course. I'm Mitch Leslie, joined by Oliver Maxfield here as well, as per usual, mate. I tell you what, the build-up to the Grand Finals has been absolutely electric. People running back and forth, getting things set to go. I know you're excited.
It's going to be the biggest show of the year, basically. We have nothing else that even comes close. It's always super stressful, so much work to do. But I mean, at the end of the day, every year, 2014, 2015, we go to Warsaw, and it's awesome.
Absolutely. And now we are here, of course, at the drawing show. We are joined by a special guest, of course, Nicholas Passamard. He is the head of esports for Europe. Pleasure to have you here. Always lovely to have you in Cologne. Nicholas, how are you feeling as well? Some excitement about seeing who our 12 teams are going to be going head-to-head with finals.
Yeah. Hello, guys. I'm just glad I will be representing Wargaming tonight.
That's right. So Nicholas will be here as our adjudicator. He'll be drawing out the balls as we sort of discuss how things are going to go. But before we get too far into the process, Oliver, let's talk a little bit about how our teams are going to be seeded here, of course, because we have teams from multiple regions plus wildcard teams to seed into 4 groups of 3. How's that going to kick off?
Exactly. So we have the wildcard teams, which we haven't announced yet. That's going to come at a later date. So we can't really talk about that. You'll just see them as wildcard Brazil, wildcard EU, wildcard Russia, and then the last wildcard is wildcard China, but that's Yato, we know that. How we're going to do it is basically we want to avoid, as last year, to not have any teams from the same region in the same group.
Yep.
So that just basically allows us to see different matches in the group stages. You know, we don't just get to see the same teams at the regional finals, etc., etc. And also we have a new rule this year where teams are not allowed to be in the same playoff side from the same region either. So we get to see different variations, more exciting matches, and all in all, it'll be pretty insane. So those are the main things to keep in mind. Otherwise, we're just moving teams through the 4 groups here from the 3 cups we have.
So 4 groups of 3. If you do remember to last year's drawing show, we had it all work out fairly well with the rules and little, I guess, strictness we had to it, I guess, of just trying to break the groups up a little bit. This time, of course, added on top of that, we're now making sure, like you said, teams aren't going to go head-to-head in the same side of the playoff bracket. So, Oliver, your groups are up here on screen for you guys. Of course, they are empty as of yet, and our teams who will be joining them are just below. And of course, to the right of us, we've sat here with the cups for a little bit, but maybe we can just illustrate, Oliver, what the cups are, what they do, and how we're going to use them.
Sure. So we got cup number 1, which is full of our first seed teams from every region. So the teams that's qualified in first, your Navis, your Wombats, EL Gaming, and Eclipse from North America. So they're the first seed teams, just the best teams we're going to have. They're going to go all through the groups as the top seed. Second is the second seed teams, as you would expect, the teams that have qualified in second in their regions, and we'll be putting them through as well with a difference that we'll be picking a position in each cup which they're going to go into. So the first one, for instance, is going to be A2, A3, and we have the third groups, which is going to be all of our wildcard teams, the teams which we haven't really announced apart from, of course, Yato.
So that's why we do have these 4 extra cups here, because it's not arbitrary, the positions which we drew our teams from the second and third cups in. We still need to find exactly what position they're going to be taking in, Oliver. So why don't we get down to business, gentlemen? Why don't we start this thing off here, of course. We will be starting by drawing a name out of the first cup, and so on and so forth, until that first cup is empty, and we have them in A, B, C, and D. That will decide, of course, our top-seeded teams will be going into each group.
Yeah, and it's good to pay attention to the fact that if there's any kind of region clashes, we're going to be moving teams to certain cups. So A goes to C, B goes to D, so they're on the opposite side of the playoff bracket. So don't be too alarmed. I'll, of course, explain how that works if we do encounter it. So the first team is
EL Gaming.
EL Gaming from the APAC region, second last Grand Finals. An amazing story. We never expected it. Beating Kazakur on Cliff. I think everyone remembers that. Also came first recently in the APAC season finals as well.
That's right. They were definitely a high flyer towards the finals. The game against, they didn't just beat Kazakur on Cliff. It was also Muravanka.
Yeah.
Where I remember they stacked up 7 and pushed all down the hill at them as a group. Some really exciting games for them. They always give us an electric atmosphere. So it's going to be interesting to see who they're going to be going up against in the early stages. But let's now populate for our second group. Of course, our next top seed. I mean, we've seen a little bit of the APAC region and what it's been able to show us as well. Of course, our friends over there have been bringing us the coverage from the Asian side of things. And EL Gaming still standing tall.
Yeah.
The second team is Wombats and Tanks.
Ooh.
My favourites.
Yeah,
My favourite logo.
The big European dogs. They've won 2 seasons back to back. The best European team, absolutely amazing, captained by Kusok. The manager is, of course, Diver. An insane set of players. Some players I've really got fond of over the seasons. They've been in the WGLU since day one. And this is going to be our last season, unfortunately, because of the differences and the changes in the regulations to do with our regions. They're going to try and go to passes and U, as they can't participate in the next season of the WGLU. So it's going to be their last grand finals representing Europe. Let's make it a good one for them.
Absolutely, of course. Last year, would have liked to have finished a little bit further down, I think, in the finals rankings as it did go. We're eventually eliminated. Na'Vi was an incredible game between those two.
They came 7th, unfortunately. Not their greatest achievement. Of course, in 2014, they came 2nd, known as Virtus Pro. So they're definitely good.
What's our next name going to be here?
Natus Vincere.
Where do we start here, Ollie?
I don't know, man. I guess start from the beginning. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but we had the RU finals recently, just the past weekend. An insane event, really good to watch. And Na'Vi, of course, beat NSS in that last map. NSS were winning it. They gave away to Na'Vi. That experience definitely prevailed. Considered to be the best team in the world.
And it was interesting to see NSS push them so far as well.
Yeah.
So they're one of the teams we're still wanting to seed here. So we'll have to see where they end up. So now for our last of our top-seeded teams, of course, it should be pretty obvious which one this is, but we'll maintain some suspense for you guys here as we fill up this last group.
Eclipse.
Yeah, of course, Eclipse from the North American regions. Just beat out Simp. A really good finals by them, and a team that's come from the previous season from Silver Series, winning.
Yeah, real underdog story.
Amazing underdog story, coming through and just being the champions of NA. I think it's the first team we've seen in the WGL that's been first place in Silver Series and then gone on to win Gold Series as well. A team that's achieved more than anyone could really expect.
Huge jump, and we've seen some teams in other regions make big jumps out of the Silver Series, but maybe not quite like that one. Of course, led by T1 Diabetic, who you may remember, he's been around for quite some time. So now we do have our top-seeded teams filling up the Group C. Group A, EL Gaming. Group B will be Wombats on Tanks. Group C, Na'Vi. In Group D, Eclipse. Now for maybe the slightly more complicated part here, however, we need to be drawing who they're going to be going up against.
Exactly. So now we pick from the second cup. This is our second C teams from the regions. And we just put them through A sequentially through to D. And now the region clashes come into the equation. If there's a team that's either in the same playoff brackets or the same teams, we do have to change their position in the group. So first team is
Tornado Rocks.
Tornado Rocks. So, an insane team. They are clashing with Group B at the moment, so we have to put them down to Group D, I believe.
Yes.
So, Tornado, I kind of feel sorry for them, but at the same time, I think they've got so much potential because, they're a team that's always got so close to winning. And they won Continental.
They did win the Continental Rumble. Of course, it was over Wombats on Tanks, and they really showed some incredible play there. But since then, Wombats and Tanks have been just a little bit better when it
And they got D3.
So D3, there you go. So they will fill technically the third spot in Group D, as it were. Not that it's really heavily calculated at this point. So we have Eclipse and Tornado Rocks now in the same group. That's a matchup we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And one that's definitely bound to draw some fireworks.
Yeah, they are a pretty damn good team. So, now we just got to go through the rest of them. Filling up Group A again because we missed it. Obviously went down to D. So let's see what's happening in Group A. So far it's working out pretty well. They haven't really seen a group of death. NSS
Not so serious.
can go into Group A as there's no clash between EL Gaming and Wombats, second seed team from the RU and CIS region. And, a team that maybe didn't perform that well at Continental Rumble, came third, fourth there. But everyone saw how well they played at the season finals recently in the WGLU season. An insane team, really good.
That's exactly what everyone's thinking about as well. We've never seen them at a grand final before, but their form in the later season of the WGLRU was quite impressive, especially even towards the latter end of it here. So let's see where they're going to end up, Nico.
They got the third slot.
All right. Group A, number 3.
Sweet.
Yeah, so Group A with EL Gaming and Not So Serious, and we got Tornado and Eclipse in Group D. So, Group A, NSS has got to be careful of EL Gaming. They're an amazing team, and that's going to be a tricky group already, and we haven't even filled it.
Yeah, that's right. So already it's going to be a very interesting clash of styles as well between those two. So it's going to be interesting. But let's now, of course, draw our third ball from cup number 2 and find out exactly where these rest are going to come in. So far, we've managed to avoid clashes for the most part, of course. The first ball being drawn in, having to just be moved. And fortunately, we can do that. Our adjudicator, Nico, is overseeing the whole process as well, just to make sure we're following all the rules.
Gold Bass.
Gold Bass, which is a team, honestly, maybe not by name we've seen tons of over multiple seasons, but we have seen a couple of players there as well. We think back to Arete. They were at the grand finals last season, and there are a couple of players still in Gold Bass that were from Arete.
Yeah.
So the legacy carries on, and they will have had grand final experience.
Yeah, Gold Bass clashing with EL Gaming, so they will have to go down to Group C. So, yeah, I mean, with Na'Vi, that's definitely not something they will be wanting to do. Both APAC teams very strong at the moment. Gold Bass with a couple of players from Rete. But overall, I mean, they came third, and then they've come third and second. And yeah, a team that's, I think, going to be an interesting one to watch. Their play style is rather unique.
They're not a wildcard team, but they definitely do pose a wildcard threat in that sense. They were the consistent achievers over the last 2 WGL APAC seasons, of course. Not really getting the top honours, but still being up there. Let's have a look.
So Gold Bass will be C2.
In Group C, C2, of course, with Na'Vi and second seed in that group.
Yeah, so, you know, Na'Vi's going to have to do some work on them, because there's not a lot of... not a lot of experience playing against these APAC teams. I mean, they're on the other side of the world. Okay, you know, Continental Rumble, they get to play against the European teams.
Yep.
Same time zone, they get to train against them. But the APAC teams definitely always a surprise, I think.
And there's almost like an osmotic information transfer between the European and the RU region as well. Players play together, they play across regions, they have friends, of course, for me, you, RU, and a lot of ideas are circulated around. But in Asia, there's not exactly so much of a passage of information. So I'd be very interested to see now, again, clashing styles coming together in the biggest arena we've seen in World of Tanks. But let's have a look now at our last team out of Cup number 2. This will be the last team before we get into our wild cards.
Yep.
See where they fit themselves in here.
So, spoiler alert, it will be Stimp.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, last team from the second seeds is going to be the North American team, Simp. I mean, if you haven't heard about these guys, I think you've been missing out, because they've been around for so long. They merged with Hammer Time at the end of the last season, made them stronger. They've been second place. They've been the bridesmaids so many times. See if they can actually put one of those nice titles on their placard, because they definitely deserve it.
And we have seen the Simp name up in lights. I think it was actually our first grand finals. We actually saw them. And back and forth for them as well. They were there with Fnatic, of course, the American representative. So they've outlasted that name, and I see them here now, of course, where they get sorted into group-wise.
So we have a problem here, because it's at C3. So we have a small mistake in the arrangement of the balls. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes, we do.
It was one of the wrong balls in there?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, they go into B2 either way, so, I mean, this is the only group which is needs to be filled up, so they go into B2, regardless of the balls, and C3, it's obviously going to be the last team there, so it's fine either way.
Much of the variation in this drawing process would have happened right towards the start, where we actually put our top seeded teams into their cups as well.
Yeah.
So because of the regulations we have on, we don't want teams obviously in the same side of the playoff bracket, in the same group. There are less different possibilities, but obviously we still need to carry it out and see where precisely they end up in those groups.
Yeah, I confirm it's fine, don't worry.
All right, so yeah, that's first 2 teams from each seed. So we got the first seeds and we got the second seeds done. You can see all in the 4 groups. Now we need to move on to the last teams, the last spot.
Yeah, also our wild card teams. It'll be a similar process, of course. There's only 1 ball left in each of those cups, but still we do need to draw through the process as per usual. And it will be our first wild card team to be drawn in here. I mean, we've thought about wild card teams we've seen in the past and how they've been able to shake things up at the top. Interesting to see if it'd be a similar situation.
Wild card China. Yato.
So Yato going in, and you know, a team that's been here and there. I mean, they've been in the grand finals a few times.
They're back, yeah. I mean,
they're back every time. I mean, they didn't do too well. They got into the playoffs though last year. A good Chinese team full of good players, and You know, I think it's about time where one of the Chinese teams who've been at the grand finals every time put themselves into a top 3, top 4 position.
It's a valuable experience, and the ability to repeat that is definitely quite helpful for these teams in their
They
development.
will be in A2.
8-2 it will be. So along with EL Gaming and Not So Serious. And I guess as wildcard regions, the multiple regions in one group rule doesn't actually apply to them because they're wildcards.
Yeah, exactly.
They get what they're given.
Yeah, if you're a wild card, you're invited to the grand finals. You know, it doesn't really matter what region you're from. You know, that's generally the thought process. But yeah, I mean, we're almost getting towards the end now.
Wildcard Brazil.
It's quite exciting, of course. Our first wildcard in from that region ever. So we have no idea what the teams from Brazil are going to be able to show us here, which is going to be adding to the excitement just that much more as well. And we know they're passionate about esports. We know they're passionate, so I'm sure that'll carry over to World of Tanks just as much as well. So let's see where they end up.
I mean, I've played with a lot of Brazilian players when the North American and the European servers were merged.
Yep.
They're always really good, and you know, the few teams were in the WGLNA. Good teams. I think they can perform. It's going to be interesting to see what they can do at the grand finals.
So, of course, a mistake is creating another mistake. It's B2, but they will be in B3.
Yeah.
That's fine.
There's only one spot left in each group, so you can see exactly where they're going to be played.
Absolutely.
So filling it up with Simp and Wombats on tanks as well. Maybe Simp have had some experience in scrims against them.
Yeah.
Very hard to say at this stage. I do remember back before we had an Asia server as well, playing on NA. I ran into quite a few Brazilian guys as well. Been playing the game for a while, so it's good to see them now with their representation here. 2 more balls left. 2 more wildcard teams to seed into their respective groups. Obviously, there are only 2 spots left, so fairly cut and dry.
Wildcard CS.
Yeah, wildcard, are you in CIS? See if you guys can guess which team that's going to be. But, I mean, all the Russian teams, really good, amazing. Whoever it's going to be is always going to be interesting.
Yeah, we saw last year, of course, Na'Vi, defending champions, were in the top echelons as well. Hellraisers were the eventual winners of the whole thing. And they didn't even come in as top seed. I think it was Na'Vi still came in that last final. So
The swap is complete. We have B3, so they will be, in fact, in C3.
C3.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, one more team to go. So far, Group A, EL Gaming, Wildcard China, Not So Serious, Wombats, Simp, and Brazil in Group B, and Group C and D left to go.
Last one.
Last one.
Bated breath as people trying to figure out which one it is, but we already know, of course. Is
The European wildcard.
Yeah.
right. So we don't know who that is going to be, of course, at this stage yet. So obviously looking forward to that particular announcement.
Announced soon. So, I mean, all these teams will be announced fairly shortly anyway. So you guys will not be kept too long in the dark. And they're going to be going into Group D2.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, done. That's all our groups for the grand finals, 3 in each.
Yeah, I mean, let's now have a look at these groups now that we've drawn them out, and maybe we can see some interesting scenarios or anything else that might occur. Because, I mean, we talk about last season, Oliver, there were some incredible storylines coming in and going out of the grand finals here. Anything that really catches your eye here?
Well, I think every year we say this, but I think the competition gets stiffer and stiffer every year. I mean, looking at these teams, even the ones which haven't been announced, you know, the wildcard teams, it's going to be insane. I mean, basically, we've got the best teams in every region. We saw how EL Gaming could perform, you know, a region which hasn't been known to be in, you know, at the top. You know, all the European and Russian teams have been, you know, considered to be the best in World Tanks. And I think I saw in the NA forums, they're the ones who deserve. I mean, I think the NA teams, they really need to step up. Fnatic had the best chance at the beginning in 2014. But I'm really looking towards the NA teams.
Here it is. Your groups for the 2016 Grand Finals are laid out there for you. Group A, EL Gaming, our wildcard Chinese team, Not So Serious in there. Of course, Group B, Wombats on Tanks, Simp, and our Brazilian wildcard team. For Group C, Na'Vi will be topping it, of course, Goldbats from the APAC region, and our RU and CIS wildcard. Then on to Group D, of course, Eclipse. It's going to be our European wildcard team there in D2, and Tornado Rocks there as well. Quite interesting. We have a situation where our wildcard teams are drawn into the same groups, actually, as teams from their same region. That's going to be very, very interesting coming into the group stages, because these guys will have a better understanding of how they play, and other teams will be watching as well as we go later on into the series. Oliver, I'm hoping for some upsets here. I mean, anything from here that really stands out to you is maybe a highlighting matchup?
I think Group D is going to be interesting. I mean, Eclipse have been really good, and Tornado showed some weaknesses at the season finals we had in the EU. EL Gaming and NSS, I honestly think they're pretty close in terms of their ability. Wombats versus Simp, I mean, that's going to be tricky. And of course, the Brazilians are completely a new, a kind of piece to the jigsaw. We don't really know what they can do and how their performance is going to stack up to the rest of the teams. Na'Vi, Goldbass are a relatively newer team. They've been in through a couple of seasons. But Na'Vi, I feel like after losing out last season, coming third, last grand finals, they actually want another title. So that's going to be a really hard team to beat for sure.
We saw them arrive in a helicopter, of course, at the last grand final. So I'm sure they're looking to make just as big a splash this year and reclaim their title. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute blast seeing exactly who we're going to be drawing out here. But Nico, of course, final thoughts from you. You're going to be there joining us all weekend, I'm sure. What are your thoughts on these teams, and how are our feelings going into the Grand Finals 2016?
Yeah, I can't wait to share what we've been preparing for all the audience since a few months now. So I'm excited, and the games are very interesting, I think, ahead. I'm curious to see how Goldbass is going to fight against the two Russian teams. It's going to be tough, but let's not underestimate them.
Absolutely. I'm not big on the use of the group of death term, but that's definitely looking like it might be a little bit tough. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here as well. Don't forget April 8th, April 9th in the heart of Warsaw in the Torvar will be our 2016 Grand Finals 12 with the best teams all around the world. 4 groups. It's going to be incredible. 2 days of amazing World of Tanks action. We're going to be there. Nico's going to be there. You better be there too. Until then, good night, and we'll see you in Warsaw.